Jadav is back at it here to give everyone my UFC 258 results video. It was a card initially I was going to order, and then the Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall fight got canceled due to Chris Weidman getting COVID. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to order it. I'm not going to order it. Not going to order it. And then 5 minutes before the fight is supposed to happen, before the card starts, the main card, I decided to put the order in just because I don't want to miss anything crazy if something crazy does happen. So just going to go over my results of the main card and my thoughts on it. The opening bout saw Makai Pitolio versus Julian Marquez. This was supposed to be a really crazy fight to start the card, and it was to a certain degree. Pitolio had a lot of wrestling, which we weren't expecting. We were expecting, stand up battle, and there was a lot of wrestling early on. But then when the fight did get to stand up, Marquez was capitalizing on it. And then in the third round, he got him in an anaconda choke and finished Pitolio off. Otherwise, Pitolio was going to win that fight. So, fun fight to start out the card. A little bit less striking base than I thought, but still entertaining to a certain degree. And then next up, we have in the featherweight division, we had Brian Kelleher versus Ricky Simone. This kind of played out how I expected it to. Ricky Simone is just a beast with all the takedowns that he had. And Kelleher got clocked with an elbow early on in the guard, and he just didn't see the same since. I don't know, Simone was way ahead of him in all the offense. So he won by decision 30-27, 30-27, 30-27, and that's how it should go. Yeah, Kelleher he didn't look good, but sometimes styles make fights, and some styles you fight against don't necessarily equal to what you're used to, and you get dominated. So Simone, I think one more fight, and he deserves a title fight, but he's got to face one of the top contenders. Maybe a Jose Aldo. No, Jose Aldo's in the bantamweight division now. I'm not sure who he'd fight, but certainly one more win, I think, in a row. And it's surprising that he lost to Uriah Faber, because that should have been a fight that he won. That was crazy that Uriah Faber actually won that fight. But nonetheless, in the UFC middleweight division, we saw Kelvin Gastelum. Well, I'm so used to saying Kevin, and I have to catch myself. So Kelvin Gastelum versus Ian Heineck. Heineck was talking about how he's such a dominant wrestler, and Kelvin Gastelum has trouble against really, really smart and intelligent wrestlers. And Kelvin Gastelum, it was pure dominance in my opinion. Ian Heineck he didn't have an answer for Kelvin Gastelum, and this is good because Gastelum had lost a few fights in a row. Maybe he hasn't been the same since the Israel Adesanya fight that he lost, but he looked really good, and he actually took it to Israel Adesanya, probably because of that tough, hard head of his. But he beats Ian Heinisch, and I'm not sure what's next for Kelvin Gastelum, but certainly if he can be a fixture in the UFC middleweight division, that's the best thing for him. Although I think a drop down to welterweight might be better, but the 10 extra or the 15 pounds of weight might make a difference, and he doesn't want to drain himself. But he's kind of small in stature and height compared to other guys in the middleweight division. But it is what it is. Yoel Romero was pretty short. He did pretty well initially in the UFC middleweight division. And then next up in the women's match, we had Macy Barber against Alexa Grasso. This was a really good fight. Macy Barber's coming back from a long layoff due to I think it's an ACL injury. Alexa Grasso looked really good with wrestling and submissions. And Macy Barber didn't look good at first. I think it was just octagon rust, because in the third round she came out guns a-blazing. So I think Macy Barber needs to take another fight right away as long as she's cleared, and I think she'll be really good. And maybe somehow, some way, she can win 3 fights in a row and get a title shot in January before she turns 23, essentially to be the youngest champion in UFC history. But it's going to be hard to do. But I think the ring rust or the octagon rust took a lot of, the first couple of rounds was a feeling out process for her, and her timing looked off. But in the third round, she looked amazing. But Grasso looked well improved and really, really good. And she might actually be close to making my top fighters list, because I liked how she looked in this fight. So that's good. I think she needs to stay where she is. This is a good division for her. And I'm excited to see what'll be next, or who will be next for Alexa Grasso. But it was a fun fight that got added into the UFC co-main event of the evening. And then, of course, the main event of the evening, the fight everybody came to see, Gilbert Burns taking on the UFC welterweight champion, the reigning defending welterweight champion that had a big winning streak, and that would be Kamaru Usman. And this kind of went down how I expected. I heard a lot of people saying Gilbert Burns was going to win the fight. Kamaru Usman is a beast. He's really, really good. I mean, look at the Colby Covington fight. That fight was back and forth. And then all of a sudden, the first half of the fifth round, Colby Covington's laying on him, and all of a sudden Usman just comes out, with jabs and hard punches, and he stops Colby Covington. I think it might have been an early stoppage, but he was going to win the fight regardless due to what he was doing to him in the fifth round, I think. So Goddard, not so Goddard, maybe, I don't know. But Kamaru Usman wins. His jab looked great. He did get rocked in the fight, but he didn't go down. But you can tell that hurt him pretty bad. But Burns, he looked pretty good. He looked better than Jorge Masvidal did against Kamaru Usman. So Usman, he's won more fights in a row than GSP in the welterweight division. And he called out Jorge Masvidal because he thinks Masvidal's talking a lot of shit because he only says he lost to him because the fight was a 6-day notice and that he's the one that broke Kamaru Usman's nose. I think Usman is going to kill Masvidal if they fight again, and I don't think they should fight again, honestly. I think the next fight to make for Kamaru Usman is Colby Covington, too, because that first fight was epic, and they should have had it right after the first one, the next fight. But I don't know. It probably will be Masvidal, maybe Colby Covington, and maybe Leon Edwards, because Edwards needs somebody to fight now that Chimaev is out with COVID, or actually he's still having side effects of COVID. So not the most exciting card, but certainly I think it was worth the money that I paid for it. I would have liked to seen one more good fight added to be the co-main event. I guess they tried to get Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira on there, but it didn't work out because the fighters wanted more of a camp than a couple weeks due to the Weidman Uriah Hall pull-out. But it is what it is. I think Kamaru Usman's beaten everybody in that division except for Stephen Thompson. I would like to see him versus Israel Adesanya. I know Adesanya and height is a lot bigger, but that would be a good fight because you got to consider putting Kamaru Usman in the category of GOAT. And I was even considering this before this fight. At least the current GOATs. I mean, he's right up there with Adesanya, I think, in terms of like how good he is. He got caught early in his career, and other than that, that's his only blemish on his record. So we'll see what happens. But UFC 259 comes out on, I believe, March 6th. 3 title fights, and should be fun and exciting. So if you're a fan of the UFC and you ordered UFC 258 and enjoyed this card and are happy with the fact that Kamaru Usman is still the welterweight champion of the world, go ahead and smash that like button. If you know anybody that would be interested in this, share the video with them. Don't forget to leave me a comment about your thoughts on the card, matchups that you want to see or matchups that you think should happen next. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.